homemade and cinched down tight over the years. So take it away, Dave and Mickey.
Hey, thanks, Nighthawk. I'm Dave.
And I'm Mickey.
And we are Shiny Side Out on WZZR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. That's the website. And that's the place where you can get your merch and join Mackie and I and all the other patrons in unfiltered ideas and conversations you'll find in chat room. That's where we are right now. And it's also a tremendous place to get your merch from. And all the artwork is actually done by A Mad Painter. That's his name, A Mad Painter.
Ahmed. Ahmed.
It's not A Mad. It's not A Mad Painter. It's
Ahmed?
A Mad Painter.
Ahmed.
He's mad. No,
I'm
not
sorry.
crazy. Not angry mad.
I'll explain.
Possibly crazy. No, I love the guy. He does really, really good work. So he did all the artwork for the station, and it's all there. You can own your very little tiny piece of it on a T-shirt or a mug or something like that. Did you know, Mickey? I don't know if you did, but this is show number 617.
Wow, 7, 10, and 600. Look at that.
It's only 17 shows into the 600s, and we're still doing our show cycle of the Hypothesis and the Epiphany, which is up to the 18th part. And we'll be doing that in the second hour. In this first hour, we talk about news. But before then, I've got to complete the intro. And you can catch us online and on air, which you're doing now. You can do the terrestrially, or you can do it online through an app on your smart device. Or you know what you can do? You can just sit comfortably in a lovely chair on a porch maybe, or in your dining room or your kitchen, listening to a Grace tabletop digital radio. I should get 600 of those, at least one. I actually sent them an email saying, I've mentioned you for 600 shows. How about, let's talk.
Nothing for you.
Crickets, Mackie.
Yeah,
Crickets. If I wanted crickets, I got them.
I feel you, brother.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Our show is now just commenced. The previous show with Solaris and her wonderful guest, Kelly Kelleher, of Haunted Healings, and that was a pretty good show as usual. I mean, she didn't lower the bar. I mean, I can tell you this right now, awesome show, or as are all hers. And you know what, you can, if you don't know who we're talking about, you can just jump in the archives at the station. They're free, and you can binge listen to any host shows. And they're all there in folders, and they're all date stamped, and you can just grab a bunch and have a good old listen. Shiny Side Out also has their archives in the station, and we have a YouTube channel where if YouTube decide they're not going to delete it, it's there. We also have a Rumble channel for those files that might have been deleted off YouTube, where we could recover them. We have those in Rumble intact, and we'll let you make a comment below as to why you think that they may very well have deleted them. Because I'll tell you, the bot that you talk to appeal is like one of those robots from Star Wars, episode 1, I think, Roger, right? Those ones. And you say, well, you didn't provide a timestamp of the thing that you told me we've violated, so, our legal people have said we didn't violate your stuff, your community guidelines in any way. Instead, we simply read out a news story that was already on the internet and covered by other YouTubers. So, yeah, restore
Social
our
credit.
things, and it just says appeal denied, right? And that's it, and your YouTube is gone. So we have the archives, at least at the station, as some kind of backup, but we do record it locally where we can, and we push it up to Rumble when it's deleted off the others. So anyway, we're not greedy. We were really early on, we were demonetized, and so it's just a matter of time as we get old enough to retire, Meki, like it is in real life. They keep lifting the retirement age so that you can't retire yet. You got to keep working. And I could retire anyway. My mortgage is still too high. Anyway, I'm broadcasting, Mickey. If you didn't know, I'm broadcasting out of Bundjalung country. How about you?
Yeah, I'm coming to you from the country of the Darak people.
Beautiful downtown Turak people. Meki and I pay our respects to all elders across Australia, of all the traditional owners of the land, the custodians of the land, and pay our respects to them, past, present, and future. Oh, you know, did you know it's been 3 years since J6? Did you?
Jeez. That's code, everybody. J6.
It's good.
Roger,
Yeah.
Roger, J6.
Roger. It has. It's been 3 years.
Well, that's the truth.
And I saw a pretty good meme today, which I'll see if it's already gone. Far out. It's so difficult. My YouTube feed, my feed has so many people in it that I can never actually find the thing that was just on the screen. I can scroll and I'll never actually get to it because it refreshes and it's just too much. So it was pertinent to what I'm going to talk about, but this is such a hot topic that the last time we mentioned it, we had our YouTube deleted. That's where the segue was, by the way, guys. And it's something we have to be very careful of talking about. And look, it's currently in the news, and it's being churned around again, and they still hasn't finalized. I think it's coming to a head because Trump is taken off the ballots in a couple of states. And basically left-held seats anyway, but it's being heard by the Supreme Court.
Pending appeal.
Pending appeal. That's right. But it's going to the Supreme Court now to decide whether that was indeed constitutional. And there have been other changes in the elections where it's now, in some states, allowed to have a third party pay for the ballot boxes, where the last time I think we saw Mark Zuckerberg personally pay for those, or came from his organization, yeah. And that's extraordinary because that was against the rules. Even though every state has its own election rules, it was against the rules. So look, I'm not claiming anything. I'm just saying what we know. So I wanted to, apart from saying the obvious things, I want to say what other things that these are accusations they're attempting to pin on Trump. Remember, let's go back in time for a minute, right? Remember that they attempted to say that he wasn't mentally competent and he had to undergo a test. Sure, it was trying to put those odd shapes through the board with the holes in it. Yeah? And
This one won't fit, damn you!
if you haven't seen that meme where there's it looks like an online assessor of someone's capabilities, and they're watching the video, and the person goes, I'm going to get the arched piece, and I'm going to put it through And you can see the expectation to put it through the arched window, and they don't. They go, well, if you turn it on its side, it goes through the square. That's hilarious to me. I just think that's great, because we all worked that out when we were a kid. Every shape will go through the square. Even the rod will go through the square. It doesn't have to go through the rod shape. The oblong, it goes through the square.
It's the everything hole.
That's that takes me back. So whether he was mentally competent or not was one of the pursuits from the left, and this was on Trump, right? He had to prove he was innocent of these. I remember Mar-a-Lago was raided. They raided it. Oh, you got top secret papers. What was the outcome? No conviction. What was the outcome of the incompetence? Well, he passed. And the test might have been simple, but he still passed, right? Profiting while president is the current one. That's really interesting. And I started thinking to myself, just how is all of this coming around right now? Oh, that's right, there's an election. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there's an election, so let's try and get the media out there showing that he's all these bad things. So if we think of Trump, we think of bad. But hang on a minute. Isn't the current president also considered by most to be, I don't know, mentally incompetent? I don't think he's going to be on a game show anytime soon.
The biggest hurdle he's facing right now is exactly that. Right? He's the oldest president ever.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot. Now, Trump is not a spring chicken either, but at least he can still walk up the stairs. So this is going to be a massive issue for Biden, because the thing is this: if you elect your president, right, which is going to be happening end of this year, is he going to be there for the whole term?
Mm-hmm.
And with Biden, I'll be honest with you, we can't be sure, right?
That's right.
Well, we don't have to be sure because we're not going to vote, but you got to be sure, right?
If you're going to vote in the US elections, then yes, you need to be assured of it, because you're looking at the VP as the next in line. And I reckon that Kamala Harris has kept bobbing up every once in a while for air, for media time, and every time not tested well.
Yeah.
I think she laughs too often. She doesn't really know the topic she's talking about. And, in that 5-minute little prep where someone says, you're talking about the border, she goes, which border? Right? And then she's sitting in the chair with the camera on her and she doesn't really understand what the question is. So I think between the two of them, they had to find someone who wasn't a glowing representation of what you should have voted for. Because then everyone would be, pressing for Biden to naturally stop being president, and you'd wish that person got in place. But at the moment, no one wants Kamala Harris to be the president, even through unfortunate circumstances, and that's a shame. That means there's two people that you don't want to be president on the same team. Yeah? And, granted, everyone who's left leaning anyway has an emotional connection to hating Trump. So that's good. So the anyone but Trump Mackie, as we've spoken about many times, is on their side. And as long as they can avoid direct questions themselves on the left, then they can secure that anyone but Trump vote. But Biden's popularity is going down, and they're kind of looking for alternates, right? But when I think profiting while president, that's another thing. That's one of those things that they're trying to pin on Trump. Hang on a minute, wasn't Biden doing that? Hasn't all of that come through, where they followed the money from foreign folk through Hunter, and then was disseminated through the Biden family? I think that's already been in the media. It's already there. But so that isn't that profiting, I suppose, isn't it? I don't know. I'm not answering the question, right? I'm asking.
He's in court, though, right? I mean, there's just a case right now.
Yeah. But that'll just keep running until everyone gets tired of listening to it, and then they just wind it up. And also, the top secret papers at home. I mean, Biden had them in his garage next to the bed. He had them in an old office filing cabinet that someone purchased, right? In his old office. So these were all top secret. There was top secret papers littered throughout them, and so you know what? If you're gonna throw stones, don't be in a glass house, right? And I think this is the very thing that if you can make someone else look bad, you know what I'm going to say? Make up something that you haven't done and try and pin it on them. Because you're just as bad as... I mean, it's two murderers in a prison cell. Right? Going, oh, you're a murderer. Yeah? And they go, well, so are you. Oh, yeah, that's right. I should have said something different. And I think that's really hard. It's very, very difficult. America's in such a difficult position right now. I saw a video today from a hearing, a Senate hearing about the FBI, and the Biden laptop was an example that came through. And he said, why didn't you come clean on at least not the data on the laptop, but that you may very well have said the laptop is real, but we've not confirmed the data yet. But what you did instead, you said the laptop wasn't real, and you said, well, we can't say that in an election year, is what the FBI guy said in the hearing, because we're going to change the outcome of the election. We're not allowed to do it. Okay, so all right. So I'm just going to backtrack a minute. So, Meki, in a fictitious scenario where bad guys and the FBI is going to have to lie to save us because they can't change the election. So if you want to do something wrong and the FBI is going to find out, then do that in the election run. And they can't talk about it. Does it... What? How is that a thing? I thought justice ran parallel, and it was just its thing. It just did it behaved naturally, regardless of what other events were going on. But no, that's extraordinary. That whole Russian collusion thing was also pointed out to this FBI representative in a Senate hearing, and he didn't want to answer those questions, right? So I'm really at a... If I'm not an American voter, which I'm not, and I'm thinking this is a very tough position the US is in right now, then how is it for the American voter, Mickey?
I hear what you're saying, but this is the thing, right? So maybe with the exception of our esteemed listenership, I think it's a very easy decision. People are... Okay, so a lot of people are Trump supporters, full stop. They're going to vote Trump. Come what may. It doesn't matter. He gets convicted, he doesn't. He's indicted, he's not indicted. And in fact, he can be in jail and he can still be elected. Not a problem at all, right? He just can't vote. That's the funny thing. No, really. If you're convicted of a felony, you can't vote, but you can still run for office. Anyway,
nice.
I didn't invent the system, but here we are. I just think the founding fathers never thought it possible this could ever happen. Anyway, okay, and then you've got the people that don't want to vote Trump. And those are not the people that want to vote Biden, they just don't want to vote Trump, okay? So that's the election.
Well, there's a big push for independence today, this year.
Well, look, if you follow the elections for the last few years, in every state, there was a third candidate who was a libertarian.
That's right.
who always came third in every state. Now, single-digit percentages, but he was there. And I forget his name now, I do apologize, but he was a libertarian candidate, which means small government. He was in favor of small government.
Yeah.
That's what libertarians do. And small taxes. So you have people that want to vote Trump, and you have people that don't want to vote Trump. You don't really have people that want to vote Biden, I don't think, or Harris, or any of those. I mean, the Democrats really should come up with a better running mate for Biden, or decide not to have Biden and have him retire, because you can. He's old now, right? And he could retire and say, look, I've had my term. I'm going to endorse XYZ, and this is going to be, the person running for president, or whatever.
I want to spend more time with my family. Thank you very much. Blah blah blah.
Well,
right? Done.
All of it. But ultimately, this will be Trump. This will be I want to vote Trump versus I don't want to vote Trump election. That's what this election is.
That's right.
It's completely irrelevant who's going to be on the Democratic ticket or any other ticket. Completely. If Trump can't compete for whatever reason, then it's a different story. But if Trump, if he can't vote, if he can't stand for office in the coming presidential elections, then of course it's an open field. Who knows what's going to happen, right? But if Trump plays, it'll be either I want to vote Trump or I don't want to vote Trump, and then the vote will go wherever. It's just it's but that's not a way to choose a leader of a powerful country. It's like, you know what I mean? That's not. Well, it shouldn't be that.
That's a perfect segue into our little fictitious scenario. So, to win against Trump at all costs, I'll be the aide. Sir, everything we try seems to fail. What can we do? Can you say that in the notes, Mickey?
I cannot.
It just says...
Yes. President!
Yep.
Take him off the ballots or something, man,
We can do that? Right?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Yes. Oh, I didn't even think that was a thing. Right. So, I just think that's really funny now. I watched a video with Vivek saying everything that we've said. Everything. In the history of our show that's election related and American politics related. He mentioned everything. I saw a video and I was completely surprised. And he goes, I'm the only candidate talking about all this. So vote for me. And I'm thinking, well, Vivek didn't kill himself. Is what I'm thinking. I'm going to fly to Russia. I'm going to see those hospital windows. Is what I'm going to do. That's right. Those slippery floors. I'm just going to see how slippery they are.
Can't be that slippery, surely.
That's right. I watched the Ted Cruz thing today, and I'm so lucky that I have some time up my sleeves to look after this, right? And Ted Cruz was talking to an inquiry, and he said that 6.6 million illegal immigrants in the 3 years since Biden has been in power, and all coming across the border, right, the southern border, saying that there is no. So obviously the Biden is saying there's no problem at the border, and then he started to separate the figures out, and he was talking about unaccompanied minors directly because of the Epstein release and child trafficking is current and very high up the media chain in conversations right now. So it's prevalent, and he started breaking the figures out, and he said in 2021 there was 107 unaccompanied minors coming across the border.
Mm-hmm.
And is it HHS? I forget what it's the organization within America that's meant to be looking after them said that they lost 20,000 of them.
Holy cow! Really?
Yeah. So that's 20%. They lost 20% of the minors, the unaccompanied minors that came across the border. So they could be in child labour, they could be tied up in a basement somewhere, they could be passed around and served as, as sex slaves or whatever. They don't know. They don't know where they are. They're just gone. Now, that was in 2021. In 2022, 127,000 unaccompanied minors came across the border. Now, they don't have he didn't state the 2023 yearly numbers yet, because it's a bit too soon to make those numbers up. But in the year prior, with, we're going to build a wall, right? It's going to be a great wall. Fantastic wall. Mexico's going to be... Remember all the verbiage around it. And they only had 30,000. And that was a 7-year low. Right? So over the numbers from the Obama through Trump, this was the lowest figure of all that period, right? And that's extraordinary to see such huge numbers, and to know that 6.6 million illegal immigrants have been allowed to come over the border. That's something else. No wonder there's just form an orderly queue, right? Doesn't that bother you?
I'm not surprised that this stuff happens. What I do find surprising are the actual numbers.
Yeah, staggering.
Because you can't just, it's not like a magic trick. Look over here and you make thousands of people just push. They're gone. What? That's not how it works in the real world. But it does. See, this is where it gets a little crazy, maybe. But we have heard from survivors and others of these massive underground facilities where people are kept for various reasons. Most of them nefarious, of course, but it certainly is a, in my opinion, it's a massive issue that needs addressing. I mean, it's just as much of an issue as 411. Yeah. Where are these people?
Mm-hmm.
Where, I mean, minors mean, of course, means children. I mean, where are these thousands and thousands of children? It boggles the mind.
It's staggering. The numbers are staggering.
We all are, I guess, now more or less used to seeing these pictures of horrific war and 20,000 people killed in Gaza and half of them or 60% of them children.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, these deaths become just statistics. So if a child dies, that's a tragedy. It's unimaginable, right? If 10 children are killed in one incident, that's a horrific situation, right? 100 children, we can still understand that number. That's a tragedy beyond compare. But when you talk about the 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 children, or 1 million children starving to death, that's a really big number.
Mm.
And funnily enough, we can only really do big numbers because of India and the invention of zero, and then the Arabic numeral system. Because the Romans, they couldn't go much beyond 100,000. Anything beyond 100,000 was a lot. Okay, so they counted to 100,000, and then after that, it's a lot. Because their numbering system didn't lend itself much to writing really, really big numbers. Whereas our numbering system, of course, we can. But our minds, our basic understanding of numbers hasn't changed. And for us, these numbers are just too big.
Yeah.
So, okay, what does thousands of children, what does that even mean, right? I mean, how many is that? And the answer is, well, if you have a plane that can hold 300 people,
mm-hmm.
right? 1,000 children, that's 3 jumbo jets.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 3. And you got 10,000 children, right? That's 30 jumbo jets.
Yeah.
Right? And on it goes. So it's a big number. It's in fact,
or one Olympic-sized pool in Japan in the summer.
There you go. That's only waiting space. The thing is this: most of us don't know 1,000 people.
No, that's right.
Okay, if you actually count how many people you would consider close or even just compatriots, friends, and I'm not talking about your Facebook friends, okay? I'm not talking.
No.
I'm talking about people you have interaction on a regular basis with. That's not a lot of people. So these numbers become very, very big and unimaginable very, very quickly. So Dave, yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't know those numbers of missing miners. I had no idea.
It's just incredible that's because, people will, traffickers will bring them to the border and they'll walk across the border and then they'll go and get some more. So they're working on behalf of somebody, who knows, right?
Really.
But what I want to say was that I mentioned this before. It's the last thing on Trump, and that is because this is all election related. Trump's being accused by the media for the upcoming election in a fear porn advertisement. You could call it political advertising, but it's through news media, yeah? And the beat up is so powerful. Like I mentioned before, I've got a friend over here in Australia who is left-leaning and believes these 4 main points. That he's going to turn into a dictator. That he's going to kill dissidents. That he's going to elect himself and change the rules so he can be president for life. And he's going to become a fascist. Turn America into a fascist society.
No, it's too late for that.
Oh, but I know, because we live in a pretend democracy, and what do they call them here, Mecky? That walk the halls in Parliament. What are those people? Again, lobbyists.
Lobbyists. That's right.
So lobbyists, and then when you end your political term, you end up as a board member or some exec member of that company that you helped get all the deals, right? So yes, we're so close. We're so close. During the pandemic, Pfizer bought advertising in all the news media, in all of it, so that they could ensure that the people said the right thing about their product. Isn't that extraordinary?
No.
Sorry.
I'm
going to go back 40 years when the news didn't have advertising that was directly associated with the news itself, and it was cross-subsidized by the shows. Oh, but I'm living in the past, Mecky.
Yeah, you're just not with it anymore. Sorry, brother. Look, the truth is that if you have the means to massage an outcome in your favor, you're going to do it. I don't care who you are. It starts by cheating at Monopoly. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you have the chance, and that's who you are. I mean, if you do that at Monopoly, then that's who you are. There's no question about it.
Yeah,
we no longer have to discuss your character.
And that's usually cheating family members out of that.
Yeah.
So you'll sell your family up the river to win at Monopoly, right?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Now, and if you can see, it is really hard to give up power once you have it. So I understand what they're saying about Trump, maybe wanting not to give it up. And the truth is this: I think very few leaders really feel good about giving up power, right? But then, of course, there's a very luxurious life afterwards, usually in America and in Australia, certainly. You're pretty much set for life. If you've been the leader of a nation in a democratic elected country, you're set for life. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. You're done. But these people that are in business, they usually want to generate generational wealth and power. And you can only do that if you rig the game. If you are aware of all the shortcuts, if you know how to manipulate, if you know how to sway public opinion, etc., you will do it. And you will do it to make sure that you stay in power. Because once you're in power, that's where you want to be. Or influence, whatever it might be. You don't want to give it up. I mean, there's very few people that I know of in the history of the world that gave up power and influence and money willingly. Because don't forget, yes, we have a peaceful transition of power. That is correct. But the people that are transitioning out, they're not destitute. They're set for life. So they're okay to give it up. It's just, I mean, they're still rich and well looked after with a lot less work. So it's okay. But other than that, if you have power, influence, and money and those wonderful things, you're not going to give it up without a fight. If giving up means you will no longer have that. Okay? So it's a question of where you will be after transition of power. And some people just want the power. And look, the truth is this as well, that sometimes transition of power is not a good idea. If you have a good idea, if you have a plan, if you know what needs to be done and are the person that can do it, then you should. I go back to Pericles, right? The Athenians, everything was going to pot, and then, oh no, it's over 2,000 years ago. Help us, Pericles, please, everything is just going to pot. And he goes, okay, if you give me full power, like,
there you go.
So they did. He became a tyrant. That was his title. It wasn't a bad title then. It just meant he had complete power. And for 30 years, Athens was thriving. Public works, he built up the fleet and trade, he did a whole bunch of stuff in the civic arena. He actually made Athens great again. I know, right?
I see what you did there.
And it worked. But again, he was the right guy for obviously he was the right guy for the job. And you look at places like China and Singapore and a couple other places, it works. I know we go, oh, China is this oppressive and this and that, and it's autocratic. Yeah, it is. But they have a plan. They pulled a whole peasant population out of the 18th century into the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
They have a plan. And sometimes when you have a plan and you're looking after the greater good, and I mean this in the truest sense of the word, then you have to just forge ahead, and sometimes you have to stomp on the individual. It's called, in democracy, or in democratic terms, it's called eminent domain. Okay? It's called eminent domain. It's where the government has the right to take your stuff away, like your house, if it's in the way of a bypass. The foregons are here. Yeah, but it does work. And so is Trump going to want to stay in power? I have no idea. But if he were, you have to ask yourself, is that a good thing or a bad thing for America? I'm talking about America now, right? I'm not American. I don't live in America. But you have to ask yourself, what do you want for America? Now, for the world, I can tell you we are spiraling toward doom. Well, you can put it any which way you want, but we're in bad shape, and it's not getting any better.
It's not.
And
the Middle East is boiling, man, right now.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
So look, Dave and I would put us in the middle class somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we still have to work for a living, okay? But we're doing okay. But we still have to work. We are being firebombed with bird poo from left, right, and center. The destruction of the middle class and all that, right?
That's right.
So look, I don't know. It's Dave. It's a really complex kind of scenario, and
well, look, this is the left claiming Trump is going to be all these things in order to prevent people from seeing him in any positive light.
Yeah, but hang on. My point, though, is that a bad thing?
Well, that's a good point that you raise. Now, is anybody who's going to get into power possibly do this? Totally.
Yeah.
Especially with the WEF and what they've signed us up for the SDGs, which is a digital currency only, by 2030. We have 6 years left to be fully digital currency with no printed money.
Not going to happen.
In all our countries. Every country in the world has already signed up to this plan.
Yeah. Honestly, I'll be honest, it's not going to happen. The reason I'm saying that is because like I said, I travel far and wide, and
Mhm.
and a lot of the economy elsewhere, even in Australia, is a cash economy.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, now can it be changed? Sure, of course.
Well,
But
the rules are slowly tightening on us, where
yeah,
you can't take anything more than $1,000 out in cash from your bank
mm,
without having to provide a reason why you're taking it out.
because it's my money is why.
Yeah, my money. Yeah, reasons.
Reasons. Yeah. But yeah, look, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So living off the grid, if you're when I mean off the grid, not
If it's
having a
within your
credit card,
means, yeah,
it's impossible. It's impossible not to have a bank account or a credit card in today's
that's right.
society. If you wanted to just be a handyman or get cash payments for your work, you can still do it. But booking a holiday or applying for anything, even going to the dentist, it's going to be very, very difficult for you.
That's right. Interfacing with the government or any health services would become almost impossible. So any of the very large national companies will already be in the position with digital only. So there won't be cash. There won't be a cash, ability there. I know that there's a whole bunch of people who are elderly that don't understand the tap card system, even debit or credit, doesn't matter. They just don't understand it. It's not within their realm. They know cash. And as you get older, you simplify yourself back to your earliest memories. You actually start to revert back earlier. And one of those things is what's the core of you? It's cash.
But they had a good innings.
Well, COVID didn't take them all out, right? So,
You with me?
yeah. Oh, yeah, I hear you. So, so the SDG thing is a real thing. It's real. And WEF, for all of the same countries, have all signed up to it. And there's some very disappointing information about EVs. I'm not going to bother talking about them because I think I talk about them too much, except for the car industries in America have decided to back out of EVs and focusing on hybrids, and Honda has decided to halt its EV production entirely and go with one of its fuel cell designs, which it had been working on for such a long time. But America's really pressing the thumbscrews and turning thumbscrews on the emissions to force manufacturers to go EV, where it's the only option. You make it so impossible that a car can't produce any emissions at all, and you end up with fuel cell or hybrid. That's it. Or pure EV. But there's so many car fires now, and car factory fires, and scooter, EV scooters. All of those batteries are so unstable that it's just becoming ridiculous. And I think everyone's realizing that there's no market, the manufacturers, people aren't buying the EVs because, you either have to drive too far or you live in an apartment building and there's no charging facilities in the basement parking. Or you don't have basement parking, right?
Already a massive issue. In fact, in Australia, it's gone as far as finding people that stay in the EV charging slot too long.
Yeah, that's right. So you can't change, and power is becoming so unrealistically expensive that you can't pay for 350, watts of of power, and the grid's not even there. The infrastructure's not there to support this. Right?
The whole electric vehicle idea is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think it's beautiful, Mackie.
And if we could produce 100% of our electricity needs by solar or wind, then I know, right? Then okay, if it was like green power all the way around, sweet bananas.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't, and we can't, and our grid. See, okay, we spoke about this before. The only reason the car was successful was because Gerald Ford found a way to make the Model T Ford very, very cheaply.
That's right.
You can have it in any color you want as long as it's black.
That's right.
And if you look at those old black and white movies, right? Those talking like from the 20s and 30s and whatnot.
Yep.
They're all the same. They all look pretty much the same. Later on, different models came along, but the initial car that broke that broke the camel's back and made internal combustion engines a success was the Model T Ford, because he could make a lot of them and he could make them very, very cheaply. And once he could do that, the infrastructure followed.
That's right.
Okay, because cities then were very different.
Well, it's like electricity, Mackie. The same thing happened when we established electricity. But we're being told by our energy regulator in Australia that we're going to have rolling blackouts during summer.
Of course we will.
Because there isn't enough power.
There isn't.
And if you're going to start consuming power when there isn't any, good luck with that.
Well, that's the thing. Now, but look at the ancient European cities. Mm-hmm. Italy, Germany, I don't care. They were the walkways, the footpaths, they're all very narrow.
Yeah.
They weren't built for cars. So that came later, so our cities have changed. And you're right. We just don't have our grid. So forget about the capacity of the grid.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm talking about the load. So let's say you have the capacity, right? So there's enough electricity, but can the grid withstand 100% usage across its vast network? I mean, is that or will transformer stations fail? Will cables burn out? Right?
There isn't enough. There's not enough capability of the network to supply the power to everyone.
Correct. And you know the worst network?
What's that?
In the world is actually the American network.
No.
It is the worst. And you know why it's the worst? Because there has never been a war in America on American soil that would have required you to rebuild, like in Europe.
Yeah.
So so no, it can't work. It's a pipe dream, and people are already realizing this. I think you put it beautifully the other day when everything went up in flames. We are moving away from the electric vehicle. Now, hybrid is still a thing, but the electric vehicle, right? The dream. And look, the EVs that we have today are simply not cheap enough, and they're not being delivered fast enough, and the infrastructure around it is not coming quick enough. And we would have to open a lot more power plants.
Do you know what? I'll tell you what the thing that needs to be invented is a small personal reactor.
Like a thorium.
Yeah, no, a small thorium reactor, or whatever it happens to be.
That'd be nice.
If it could be the size of maybe a home computer.
Mr. Fusion!
There you go, Mr. Fusion, exactly. But if you could make something that small, then you could just turn that on and operate your very cleverly designed electric vehicle.
Oh, mate, but see, at that point, if we had these mini, let's say, thorium reactors, we'd be living in a very different world.
It would be totally different. That's right.
And I agree. At that point, in fact, there wouldn't be a grid anymore.
No, you wouldn't need a grid because you could personalize your power to yourself.
Yeah.
No, exactly right.
So that'd be nice.
Yeah. So living on that dream, and I'll leave the John Alita talks about Epstein in jail. I'll leave that till next week. But I did want to say something, Becky, about the first story, and that was the Air Alaska flight 1282, where the plane window from the inside is the only damage you could see. It blew out, and it was a sudden, unexpectedly missing cabin door plug is what it's called, where the airframe can have a door there, or it can be closed up. It can just be panels. But I discovered because the plane was designed to only have 178 seats and not 200 seats, 200 seats would have required the door to be there. If, mid-aircraft, you've got the exit door, so you get a bit more space in that row, you know what I mean, Mackie? And you can, as long as you agree to operate the emergency door, then you can sit there. Well, it only had 178, not requiring the extra exit, so that's the reason for it. On the outside of the plane, the entire panel was missing. That would have been the whole door plug itself, and it was lucky there was only minor injuries, probably eardrums or something like that because of the sudden decompression. Very lucky, because we've seen similar where cargo door or the front the first door in its door plug fails, for instance, and it can rip the top of the aircraft off. Now, I'm going to question this again. So aircraft whose servicing was rated by flight kilometers or flight distance, so every 100,000 or something like that in kilometers, but was stored during COVID because it wasn't being used, wasn't earning the kilometers in order to have regular servicing, but rather, because that was fine when it's in use, but when it's stored, it probably still needed servicing on different parts of the aircraft. So a depressurization accident where a part of the plane's fuselage or skin flies away from the aircraft, that is microfractures around the rivet joints, and that's something that would be tested along a certain age of the plane, but done by distance. So if this plane was stored for a while, it might have actually been the storage, like the age, not the traveling distance. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to everybody, because that's the way I look at it. The very plane that I landed in Sydney, whose maintenance schedule was also thrown out because it was in storage for a while, meant that the hydraulic flaps for landing couldn't extend, and we had to come in so hot that we had the airstrip in Australia's main airport anyway, we had to come in at sea level and just come in so hot that even the pilot said just ignore the emergency vehicles. We were coming over 200 knots. It was just crazy. So I suspected this was going to be the case, that we weren't going to see it for an operational amount of time after we came back from out and blew the dust off these planes and got them back into service, because they weren't being fully serviced before being let out again. And I just, touch wood, I've got a daughter returning in a couple of days from New Zealand, and I don't want anything like that to have happened. I hope the plane has been serviced properly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Until everything gets back and going again. Because once, it's like a juggler juggling balls, right? If they're in flight and everything's happening, there's a normal process of checking them, right? But
now,
wow.
Before we go into the break, which we will very soon, I want to read something to our esteemed listeners, for which I got 3 sads on my Facebook. So it's my Facebook thought for the day yesterday. And I want you to not... And I don't know why I got the sad. They gave me a sad cry. Okay, this is what I wrote. And how they laughed and joked and how high their spirits were. Marching on and on through fields and glen, and still they cheered and sang. And how hard they worked when they dug the holes, and how the singing made light the work. They cheered as their comrades fell into the holes, torn apart by gun and flesh. Oh, and how their skulls grinned into the sky when the crows had picked them clean. That's good. That's positive.
Well, the crows ate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a natural cycle of life, isn't it?
That's what I intended. Look at the beautiful natural cycle of life.
You see, we eat the seed, right? Nature grows the seed. Yeah. That's funny. So with only seconds to go. It's sad. It's sad. Because the poor people who had to sing to make the toil better ended up dying.
Yes, good for them.
Yeah, that's us. That's right, yes. Anyway, look, that's the end of the first hour of David Mackey's Shiny Side Out. There's a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll start talking about the Hypothesis and the Epiphany, Part 18. So stay tuned. If this is on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in a new YouTube channel.